Hello everyone. So today we'll be walking over how do I go about setting up a new Node.js project along with TypeScript, Eslint and Prettier. Personally, I like to have this setup be really precise because it helps with the long-term maintainability. So with that, let's jump right straight into it. We'll start with making sure that we are on the node version that we want to use for the project. So as you can see, we are right now using the latest long-term version that is supported. So that is good. We want to keep doing that. And we also persist the same information in NVM RC. So anyone using the project can just run the command nvm use and they would end up being on the same node version. Another thing that I quickly like to take care of is having or having save exact as true. So whenever we are installing npm dependencies, there is no possibility of them ever getting auto updated onto a later version. So all of the dependencies that we install will end up being pinned. So with that, let's quickly create our npm project. Let's use this as package name description. Let's say boilerplate for Node.js and TypeScript project. Entry point would become dist/index.js. Skip over test commands, TypeScript, Node.js, Eslint, Prettier, author, quickly my name, MIT. Yep, this command looks good. Now we have our package JSON because of the npm init command that we ran. The first thing that I would like to do is install TypeScript. And also at the same time, you can also install types node, both of them as dependencies. As you can see, there is no tilde or caret preceding them, which is due to the fact that we said we always want to install the exact versions of the dependencies. So with that, let us quickly establish our Rts Config file. So now I used the TypeScript package that we just installed to create our Rts Config file. So that looks good. So with that, now quickly jumping on to how do we set up Eslint for our project. Let's copy this npm install command that the TypeScript Eslint website provides. And as soon as we did that, you can see we now have a bunch of more dependencies that automatically got installed. The next thing for us to take care of is creating an Eslint configuration file, right? So let's start with a very basic configuration as just like the Eslint's website recommends. In addition, Eslint rc let's also create an Eslint ignore file. So we do not want to go over the dist folder. We also do not want to go over the JavaScript files. We also do not also want to go over JavaScript files, and we also want to skip over our node modules. Right, so off the bat, I think these are the 4 rules that do make sense for our Eslint ignore. Right, so we are done with that. So yeah, ignoring unnecessary files using Eslint ignore, we have done that step. Now let's add a command to our npm package JSON. So where is the script? So here is the script. So let's add a command called static analysis, which will run npm run Eslint dot. So as you can see, I like appending npm bin, which basically makes sure that we are always using the version of Eslint installed in this node modules folder locally and not some global version. So next thing is we can also add Prettier. So let's set up Prettier, which we are going to use to format our code, right? So we have installed Prettier. Now, just like Eslint, we need a Prettier RC. So we have created this Prettier RC, and let's quickly set up the configuration file for our Prettier RC.js file. And this is just some configuration that I like to use. So I want to always have a trailing comma, not to use tabs with a tab with a 4, always have a semicolon, and always also have a single quotes over double quotes. And just like Eslint ignore, we should also create a Prettier ignore, and ignoring kind of the same things that we ignored with Eslint. So I think this is good for Eslint configuration. You can go to the options of Prettier and see what are the other things that you can potentially add onto the config, but this is a good starting point. Now coming back to our Eslint configuration, now we can also add Prettier to our Eslint config, which will make sure that in addition to Prettier running the Prettier part itself, even the Eslint commands can end up prettifying the code. So that's a nice kind of feature to have. So how do we achieve that is we install this Eslint config Prettier plugin, and then in extents of the Eslint we add Prettier, right? So okay, now this looks good. Give me 1 second. So let's remove this. Okay. So now we are done with this part. There are some community configurations that we can use. So Airbnb has a popular Eslint configuration. We'll skip using them. You're free to use them. One thing that we will include is using some of these other standard plugins that have nice configurations. So we are going to install 3 of them. So let's use let me just quickly open each one of them. So there is Eslint plugin for comments, and then there is Eslint plugin import that has some rules regarding how imports and exports should be structured. And then if you're using a Node.js project, which we are, then there's some Eslint plugin for that. And how we can add each one of them is we can just extend them, right? So starting with the first one, this is done. Now going on to the import. This is also done. And then finally the node recommended. Okay, this is also done, right? So now our Eslint configuration, I think, looks pretty good. And if we, let's say, run, actually we do not have any files right now. So let's quickly create not a source file. Honestly, let's create a source folder with an index.ts file, and let's do a console log statement saying hello there. Now if we were to try run our Eslint command, we named it static analysis. So if I run npm run static analysis, so it ran successfully. There was no issue in our existing code, right? And another thing, we want our output code, as we mentioned earlier, to be in a dist folder, and a root directory for the source code is inside source. So now let's also add another script command for build. So now that we have our first TypeScript file, if we wanted to get the final JavaScript file that we would export or run on a server and so on and so forth, we will use npm run build command, which, as you can see now, just produce this /index.js file which is the translation of our TS file. So this would be the file that, ends up getting hosted and utilized by others. So now all that is kind of sorted and well and good. The couple of last gotchas to take care of. First one is let's install Husky. So you do not want to be manually running the Prettier commands every time you have new code, right? So for that, Husky is a nice plugin that would take care of it. So npm install Husky, right? And npx Husky install, right? So that is done now. And then npm Satvik. Okay, that is also done. So kind of the last plugin to install is this plugin called lint staged. So every time you're creating new files, you would want to run Prettier on those new files just before you're checking in the code. And if there are any changes on those files, you would want to be checking those changes in automatically, right? So that is what lint staged will help us take care of in conjunction with Husky. So I ran our lint stage kind of installation commands, and as you can see, it added this lint stage stuff into our package JSON. So what this is saying, on the JS files, I want to run this, and on JS and CSS and MD files, I want to run this. So I'm going to change this a little bit and say on my TS files, I want to run this. Actually, let's say on my JS and TS files that are not ignored obviously by Prettier, right? And let's add a command here. So npm bin Prettier, right? So this is going to run Prettier and kind of update those files in place. So just to quickly see it in action, let's say I remove the semicolon, but we always want to have the semicolon as we have instructed in Prettier config. So you can see the semicolon got added back. Now, if I removed it again, and let's see where we are with Git Status. So we have added a host of things, right, to a package log and installed a bunch of things. So now if I was to go ahead and add in all those files, you can see I still don't have a semicolon in it here. But now when I try to check in this code, it will run kind of our preparing lint stage, running task for the stage files. And as you can see, the file or the changes that got added, this file hello world, this console log already had a semicolon added to it, right? So the Prettier command ran as like a step before our commit step. Changes were made, and those changes also got checked in, and then the actual kind of commit step happened. And this pretty much sets us up for most of the development that we would do in our Node.js project, or how we would start going about it. The last package that I would like to kind of call out, and let's say also add in here, is this one called Npm Check Updates. So this helps, I like this package personally because it helps to easily make updates to packages. So what this does is you can run, let's quickly add a script here. Let's say check updates. And then nc here, right? So now if I run this command npm run check updates, it will run this package, and it determines, going over my package.json file, that hey, all your dependencies are up to date, so no need to worry. But if there were any that were not up to date, it will show us what all packages were out of date and what is the latest version for each of them. And if we did have anything out of date and we wanted to update it, or like update the package JSON, the command to run is ncu-u basically. So let's add that as another one. Right now, if we try to run it, obviously nothing is going to happen because everything is up to date. But this is kind of the last package that helps me keep dependencies up to date easily, relatively. With that, I think this was it for kind of our initial setup. As you can see, we have a lot of dev dependencies, but hopefully this helps us keep a good project in terms of quality and maintainability, and helps enforce a set of common standards that everyone can rely on. That was it for today. I'll be checking in my changes in here into this GitHub repository, so anyone can use it as a template for their next TypeScript or Node.js project. Thank you.